Alright, so we're starting off this chapter with some valuable exposition about the Sumerians. So the third eye that they have is an essential organ for every being on Sumeria, which we're getting the name of their planet, we guessed it was that. And it's the source of all of their Rololuka, which is their version of cursed energy. So we kind of assumed that, I guess, just based off of the context, but that's confirming it. So we got that out of the way. And coming into this chapter, we're being reminded that a daughter of the Deskunte chieftain was killed by a Callion, because, you know, like we said, those sacred beasts that is apparently a part of the Rumelian religion is hostile against anyone that's not Rumelian, so the Deskunte's chieftain's daughter got killed by one. And it's really bad timing because this is essentially happening soon after the canal had been finished and trade with the Rumelians at the Deskunte was put in place, and they were on pretty much good terms for the first time in a very long time. So obviously this is going to upset the Deskunte, who already had problems with the Rumelians. And the chieftain, of course, is blaming the Rumelians for the Kalen killing them because it's part of their religion. And they're claiming that even they provoked the Kalens, which is not true. But it's understandable that the Deskunte would think that. And in exchange for his daughter's life, the chieftain is demanding 90% of their territory, including the canal. And if they don't do it, he's gonna attack them. But first, they have to go through like a duel. That's how things are settled in Sumeria. In Sumeria, the most powerful people are generally the ones who wield authority, and the same is for the Rumelians. But the Deskunte tribe takes it one step further, and whoever's the strongest is the one who's right. And it makes you wonder, like, man, what if it was like that in, like, real life, like on Earth? And then I was thinking, like, who are the strongest fighters in the world? And then I was like, oh, wait, maybe let's not do that because it's probably Tom Aspinall, who is British. But then again, we do have John Jones, but he's afraid of Tom Aspinall. And then I was also thinking, like, oh, what about Francis Ngannou? But oh no, he's like Cameroonian, but also French. Then I was like, okay, maybe it's not such a good idea. Let's just keep doing what we've always been doing and having sociopathic baby boomers rule the world. But anyway, they settle disputes by having each side choose a champion to battle one-on-one in a duel. And if they win, they're free to trample on their opponent until their goal has been achieved. And if they lose, they accept their opponent's demands and end the dispute. This is super fascinating, not only for what happens in this chapter, but I think this is foreshadowing for what is going to come later on in this series. And I think it means that we're going to see DABURA versus Yuji. We talked about this before when we found out, what was it, like 2 chapters ago, that Yuji is essentially still alive. Or at least it's implied that he is, because we saw that Tsurugi like came close to death and he went what is implied to be like that void in between dreams and reality, or, you know, the pre-death place or whatever. And Mahito was like there still from the end of the last chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. And he was like, it's not him again. I'm paraphrasing, but he was like saying like, it's not Yuji. Like, when is Yuji gonna show up here? When's he gonna die? So if Yuji is still alive, I think this means that something is going to happen between the Sumerians and the humans, because that has been like the big Chekhov's gun of this entire series so far. It's like, is war gonna break out between the humans and the Sumerians? It seems really fragile at this point. What's gonna happen? So either Gege is just gonna pull another failed curse merger on us, and that's never going to happen, or instead of a full-blown war, we'll go by Sumerian rules where, you know, each side picks their strongest guy to settle the conflict. Obviously the Sumerians are going to pick DABURA, and then Earth is going to pick Yuji, because who else right now is strong enough to fight DABURA? No one! No one's even close enough to fight that guy, as we'll come to see. So it has to be Yuji. And this is like classic Gege. Gege's strongest asset as an author is hype moments and aura. And Gege's hype moments and aura led to the biggest part of the series in the first one, which was Gojo versus Sukuna. And that was foreshadowed from the very beginning. I even made a video saying that was very likely going to happen like 2 or 3 years before it actually did. And of course, at that time, you guys were calling me an idiot for it, which is, you know, part of the course. But I'm thinking that he is going to pull that again. If we come into the sequel to that, it will be Yuji, the strongest sorcerer, I guess, in history, they'll call him that, against the strongest sorcerer of today, which is DABURA, I suppose. And I don't know, does that mean that it's going to exactly mirror what happened between Gojo and Sukuna as to where Yuji is going to die against DABURA? I mean, that could happen, although I don't know if Gege wants to be that rinse and repeat with it, but I do think that this is going to happen, and that's just another great way for Gege to break the internet. Yuji versus DABURA? Are you kidding me? Especially old man Yuji, which we don't even know what he's capable of at this point. I mean, he randomly went from like special grade 1 sorcerer to like a beyond special grade at the end of the series in the span of like a month. So we hardly really got to see what he was capable of. So now that he's fleshed it out over the last 60 years, that hypothetical matchup is just too good to pass up on. Now, I don't want to hype you guys up too much. This doesn't mean that it's confirmed, we're just speculating, but it just seems like an easy home run at this point, right? Hey, also guys, if you haven't already, could you please subscribe? This is mainly just to my Jujutsu Kaisen followers. I know a lot of you probably watched this video from the recommended, and that's fine. I do that a lot myself, but please subscribe. And also, if you can, just please like the video. Let's try to get it to 2,000 likes. That might be too much for my Jujutsu Kaisen reviews, but if you could do that, it would help the video, and it would help me a lot too. So thank you guys, I appreciate it. But anyway, going further, we find out that the Sumerians had like this tournament back in the day. This was before the Rumelians' village was destroyed by the Deskunte. And Dora was the winner of that tournament. And like even in that tournament, the Deskunte chief at that time participated in it. Even with all the matches rigged to favor the Deskunte, Dora still won. So again, hype moments in Aura. This chapter is really good at that. It's building up Dora without even showing us him doing anything other than in the previous chapter of him like punching that boulder. Oh, this guy's really strong. He's either number 1 or number 2 pound for pound among the Sumerians. And of course, that means that he's going to have to fight DABURA because, you know, DABURA is a Deskunte, as we discovered in the previous chapter. But DABURA is not the chieftain. He's just the strongest guy randomly amongst them. The chieftain is actually just some old guy. It remains to be seen how strong he is. But another fascinating thing that's revealed here is that DABURA appears to not be healed. Like, he's not a bad guy. He's actually a good guy? Which is surprising. I thought this guy was going to be evil. I mean, he looks like it, and he's kind of been built up to have that aura of an evil guy, but I guess that's what Gege wanted. He lulled us into a false sense of security, which is good. I like it. Although, you know, the verdict is still out. I'm still not sure. But we'll get into that a little later. Because we're even finding out that DABURA is reluctantly fighting against Dora here. Apparently, they took his little sister as a hostage so that he would fight Dora to the death. We're also finding out from Dora here that what originally caused the exile of the Rumelian people 10 years ago, you know, what started in the previous chapter, was not over religious stuff with the Kallians. It was an invasion to take over the Rumelians' Mul quarry. So Mul is a special ore that can convert Roluka, or cursed energy, into forms of energy. And this is bringing everything full circle and making things make way more sense than they did before. Because at the beginning of this flashback in the previous chapter, we found out that Cross and Maru's dad died in this invasion 10 years ago, but he was holding one of these stones, one of these Mul rocks. And we're finding out it's because it's really important. It can convert cursed energy into other things, other forms of energy. But Dora is just pulling the mask off of all of this. This is more so the Deskunte trying to take over their Mul inventory more than trying to get revenge for the daughter or trying to overcome whatever their religious quarrels are with them and the Kalins or whatever. And Dora is just trying to get through to them, being like, hey, look guys, we're not asking you to succumb to our religion. We're just asking you to respect our way of life, which has grown from it. We Rumelians are only humans just like you. And that's really funny. It's like, did they consider themselves humans too? Usually in series like this, when you see like a humanoid person outside of Earth, they're usually referred to like as Terrans. And the chieftain's not hearing this. He's just like, all right, DABURA, begin. And DABURA just immediately kills Dora. Like, we don't even see it, which is understandable. Hype moments in Aura here. We got to build up DABURA as like this big final boss of the series. And it's explicitly said that he is holding back against Dora here. Like, he destroys him. And he even felt bad doing it. He's like, sorry, I didn't want to harm his face. And then when later we find out that Dora and DABURA were friends back in the day. And since the Deskunte won, they could essentially do whatever they want. They could take over all the Rumelian land, and they could take over the quarry. And obviously, they're not going to do what Dora wanted in the previous chapter with siphoning water from the river or whatever to benefit the rest of the Rumelians. So they're like, yeah, there's nothing left on the remaining land. We can't grow anything without the connected waterway, and illness will spread again. And they're going to die if they fight back anyway because the Deskunte are stronger than them, especially DABURA, who is like number 1 pound for pound. Remember, it was said that he is just as strong as Sukuna, if not even stronger than him. And speaking of DABURA, he comes back to the Rumelians after the fact. And he's like, DABURA told me that he left something to you. And we find out that was mining his own little Mul quarry. Like, as he was digging through, making the canal, he was separating all of the Mul pieces. He just left them all behind for everyone to use in his absence. And we see that Maru and Cross can manipulate the Mul, and they're able to turn it into, like, a new material, which Jabaloma says is something with even greater purity than Mul. And they're like, okay, we lost. And the Deskunte are for sure going to, if they don't genocide us, they're just going to ruin everything anyway. So let's go search for another place to live. And the other Rumelians are like, what? Another place? they're like, yeah, sure, there's got to be some other planet out there with people like us, so we'll just leave and we'll go there. And DABURA's like, I'll go with you. I promised Dora that I'll protect the Remelians. So DABURA, a good guy so far. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know for sure that he is going to fight Yuji. Not confirmed, but man, I really hope that happens. And also, there has to be some kind of ultimate antagonist in this series, right? I mean, unless it's not one of the Sumerians, but this also implies that not all of the Sumerians left Sumeria. There are like the Deskunte that stayed behind. So maybe the Deskunte wind up following them to Earth, and then the chieftain is like the big antagonist eventually, or I don't know, maybe there just is no big ultimate antagonist from the Sumerians in this series. Maybe it just winds up being like a cursed user or something trying to manipulate the Sumerians into a war or something like that. But if DABURA isn't secretly a heel, which I don't know, so far it seems like he's not, I guess he'll just reluctantly have to be a heel or maybe an anti-heel at some point. But anyway, at the end of the chapter, we see Cross and Maru manipulating the super pure mull that they made into what is going to become the Sumerian spaceship. And I was talking about this in the previous chapter because we saw what the Sumerian civilization was like, and they're pretty rudimentary. Like, they're not really advanced at all. They don't really have anything outside of like Bronze Age technology, at least from what we saw. And I was like, wait, how do they have a spaceship that can achieve interstellar travel? And I was like, well, maybe it has something to do with their cursed energy or whatever. And it turns out, yeah, they're manipulating the mull into making a freaking spaceship. So the spaceship that we saw, I think it was in chapter 2 or whatever, that's completely made out of mull. And with cursed energy and some plot convenience, they're able to achieve interstellar travel and find where Earth is. So this was a really cool flashback. I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily the end of it. I guess we'll have to see how they get from point A to point B, maybe. It would be cool if there was at least one more chapter of this flashback to just fully flesh things out, but I could see Gege maybe trying to save that for later, possibly. But let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys. If you liked the video, please give it a like again and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.